hi, Bella. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dana and today I have another painting tutorial for you and it's a spooky themed Halloween painting. Well, sort of. Spooky and Disney themed Halloween painting. We're painting the poison apple from Snow White. Which in some versions you may see it portrayed as green, sometimes it's white. This one is based off of an actual screenshot from the movie, but customize yours however you like. But with all of that being said, let's start painting. Okay, so before you get started, you are going to need your supplies. You will want to have some paint, and I'll list all of the colors down in the description below. Something to paint on, some brushes, some paper towels, and just a cup of water to wash your brushes. Okay, so we're going to start with the background, and we're going to mix some white with some black, and we're going to make a nice gray color to start our background. Add a little bit of blue and this magenta color to give it a slight purpley tone for our gray. We're going to start at the bottom and we're going to brush upwards, and we're only trying to cover like the bottom like 1/4 or 1/3 of the painting. And you want to leave these nice jagged edges at the top so that when we do the color on the top portion of the canvas, it can bleed down into the bottom and have a really cool blendy effect. So now we're going to make the color for the top part of the painting, and we want to make a purple color. So we're going to mix that magenta and blue together, and you can go ahead and mix it right on top of your gray. It's okay if a little gray gets mixed in there, and if you want it a little darker, you can add a little black. And this time we're going to start at the top and we're going to brush downwards. And you want to make sure you brush all the way into that gray, and right where they meet, just let them blend into each other. If your paint dries out while you're doing this, you can always add a little water to your paint or just grab a little bit more of either color on your brush so that they're both wet at the same time. Blending works easiest if both colors are wet at the same time, and you just want to keep brushing them into each other until you get the desired effect. And it can be more blended or less blended, it's really up to you. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the glow effect. And you're gonna wanna make sure that your paint is completely dry before you do this. So you're gonna mix some yellow with a little bit of blue. You wanna get like a really bright green color for this. And this is gonna be, like I said, that glow behind the apple. So once you're happy with your green color, you're going to want to spray it with some water and then remove most of the paint off of the brush so that you don't have too much. And you're going to start in the center, and you just want to put a little on at a time and then use your fingers, or you can even use a paper towel if you prefer, to like kind of buff out the paint so it's kind of a smudgy, cloudy effect almost. And just do small sections at a time. You don't want to do too much because the paint will dry really, really fast. So if you try to do too big of a section, it might not smudge for you anymore. So just continue making it bigger and bigger, as big as you want your glow to be, and just working it, like I said, a small section at a time. Put a little bit of paint on there, buff it out with either your finger or a paper towel, or use both. I'm using both methods on mine until it looks just how you want. Oh, and of course, we can't do a video without having a Bella cameo, because she's really always around when I'm painting, and sometimes she just likes to be in the camera. Okay, so moving on to a smaller brush, we're going to draw the shape of our apple. So we're going to start with a white, kind of a creamy color first. So this has a tiny hint of like a pink or peachy color to it. So you want to add a little bit of that magenta and a little bit of yellow in there. Now again, I'm going by the screenshot from the film, which came out like back in the 1930s. So if you don't like it or you want to do a different color, feel free to do yours whatever color you like. But in the movie, it was kind of an off-white, like kind of a creamy, peachy off-white color. So I'm just sketching in the general shape for my apple. I start a little smaller than I know I want it to be. That way, as you can see, I'm making it a little bigger. I can adjust the shape, and it's easier if you start smaller because you can always make it bigger. It's a lot harder to go back and make it smaller if you end up starting too big. And now I'm gonna flesh out these shapes for the drips. So I'm actually starting with the detail of the poison dripping off the apple first, and then I'll fill in the red after, since there's less red parts. And again, I'm using the screenshot from the movie. There's also a ton of merchandise, or you could just make this up, just any kind of drip shapes. The drip is supposed to resemble a skeleton vaguely, so you can kind of think about that when you're making your drips. So on this one, their drips are kind of higher up on the sides, kind of like where cheekbones would be, and then they drip down lower where the mouth part would be. And that'll make more sense once you see the whole face put together, but it's probably best if you use a reference image for this. But use a small brush and take your time to get the shapes exactly how you want. So I've added in the general drip shape, and now I'm adding in some of the smaller details, like the nose, which is kind of like an upside down heart shape, I guess. And you can kind of just look at a skeleton nose. And then we'll add in the eyes, which are just these ovally shapes, but they're not symmetrical and they're not perfect ovals. They're kind of like lumpy shapes because this is supposed to look like it's dripping off, and the drips just create a skull-like shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then for some of the smaller shapes, you might want to use a smaller brush, which is what I'm doing for some of the smaller little gaps in the drip. And then go ahead and fill it in. And I went back to a slightly bigger, like medium-sized brush. And I'm just using the same color and filling in the whole shape. You don't have to be super perfect about this around like the eyes and nose, because we are going to go back with red. So if you do accidentally like paint inside of the eyes or the nose or whatever, you can always go back with the red and fix it. Okay, so the next part, we are going to fill in the red. So we're going to grab some of this magenta and a little bit of the yellow to make kind of a brighter red. And we want to add just a touch of blue to get our red just a little bit deeper. Once you have the red that you like, you're just going to go in now and fill in the empty spots of your apple that are supposed to be red. So if you didn't make the bottom of your apple shape quite right when you were drawing it out before with your initial sketch, of course you could take the red and clean up your shapes, especially around your drips. So if your drips weren't perfect, or you thought they looked too big, or you didn't like the way they were shaped, you can use the red to kind of carve out around them and clean up all those shapes and perfect them. So I'm starting with the larger areas first, like around, I guess, the bottom of the apple or the chin area. Fill in the eyes. And the other eye. And then you might want to go ahead and grab a smaller brush to do the nose and any of the smaller little gaps between, I guess, like the teeth drips, or like if you want to add any smaller drips in there. Like I have those 3 little gaps, and I'm going to go ahead with this smaller brush and fill those in as well. So now that I have the red parts filled in, I'm going to keep using the same red and the same small brush. And in the original drawing from the film, there are these red little detail lines that are kind of there to make the poison look extra drippy and probably like 3-dimensional. So I'm just taking this small brush and just adding those little outlines in there as well. You can skip this part, you could do it a different color. It's up to you, but like I said, I'm just kind of going by that original reference image for mine, so you can do yours however you want. These lines just kind of make it look more goopy. Now I'm going to make the red a little bit lighter and brighter, so I'm going to add some more yellow to it. Now we're going to add this lighter red as a highlight, so we're going to put this kind of around the edges of our apple just to kind of brighten up like some of the center areas, to make it look more 3-dimensional. There's not a ton of space in the red areas for this, so it's a small little detail. You could skip it if you wanted, but it just helps add a little bit more dimension to your painting. I'm also going to add it a little bit in the eyes as well. I know with the glare on the painting it might be hard to see, but it's just a small thing that in person and up close it does make a difference. Next, we want to add a shadow color, so we're going to add a little bit more blue and magenta back into that original red color to make it a little darker. And again, this is just like that lighter color. We're just using it to add more dimension so we can add some shadows. And this would be especially good in the eye here, and maybe like around edges and under drips, just to make it again look more 3-dimensional. If you feel like it goes on too strong, you can smudge it in a little with your finger, or you don't have to use your finger. I like to use my finger, but it's up to you. And you can see I'm just putting this around areas where there might be little shadows. And you can go back and fix up any little details. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mix a light blue color. Now this might sound like a weird color to add, but like I said, in the original movie, there was kind of a light blue, almost like reflection or glow or kind of shadowing. We want to do this really light, so wipe most of the paint off your brush. We're almost like dry brushing this on, and just very, very lightly apply this up around the top of the apple, kind of around the edges of the apple. And if you don't like it, or you don't want to do this much, you can do a little less of it, but it's just kind of like another little shadow to make it look 3-dimensional. And another way you can make it look a little less dramatic is you can use your finger and smudge it. And again, I'm just kind of doing this on a few different areas of my apple. Alright, so once we finish up with this blue detail, we are going to do the stem next. So we're going to make a brown, and we're just going to use that kind of purpley color that we have down there. And if you just put a little bit of yellow in that, you might have to add a little bit of red or maybe even a little bit more blue, but that'll give you a good brown color. And we're using a small brush, and we're just going to draw this little kind of triangular shape for the stem on the top. And to give our stem a little detail, we can go back to that original color we used for the poison, that kind of cream color, and just take a little bit of that and give your stem a little highlight. We can use the same color to draw the little string. So in the movie, there's like a little string that she's holding to dip the apple into the cauldron. And you can use, again, your small brush on that same white, cream, off-white color to draw your string. And if you don't have any more of that color, you could just use plain white. So next we're gonna make a dark kind of purpley color with some blue and magenta and even a little bit of black. And this is for the outline. So with all of these like old cartoons, they all have like a little bit of an outline. It gives it that little cartoony touch. If you don't want yours to look cartoony, you can skip the outline to just kind of leave it as it is. It'll look just fine. But if you like that old Disney cartoon style, you can use a small brush in this dark color and outline the apple. So you don't have to outline every single shape, but just, you know, some outlines in a few key areas will give it that nice old cartoony look. And I'm just very carefully and slowly going around the shapes that I want to outline with a small brush. And anytime you're doing outlines, a little bit of extra water in your paint will help to give it like a nice inky consistency, which helps to get a nice thin line. And you can even use this outline color to give a few more little details, like these little lines around the top of the apple that help to make it look kind of goopy up there as well. And of course, don't forget to outline the stem and the string and all that as well. So once you're done with your outlines, we're going to keep using that small brush and we're going to add one final little touch. So this is kind of hard to see in the video, but I'm making a very, very light green pale-ish color. It's like a yellowy green color. So with white, some yellow, a little bit of blue, and you want this to be very light and very pale. And this is actually going to be the shiny spots. But it's a little bit greenish because we have that glow. And these are just going to be little spots along the apple where you could put some little shine marks. So if you want it to be really shiny, you can add more of these. Again, on mine, it's a little hard to see. You kind of have to look close, but it's just a small detail that just adds just that little extra something. So there's just little hints of green or like this light green kind of highlight in some areas. So you can see I'm just adding it like along the drips where a shiny spot would be. And that's just your last little finishing touch. And after that, you're all done. And that's it, the poison apple from Snow White. Yay! And as always, Bella and I would like to thank you guys for watching our video. Yeah, it's ours, right? She's the real star. And if you like what you see, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, share it with all of your friends. Also, I always forget to mention, but I am on Patreon. I'll leave links to that below, as well as all my other social media. And don't forget, if you do paint along with me, please let me know. I'd love to see your work. Please don't forget to share them with me on social media. Instagram is probably the best, but tag me on Twitter and Facebook and anywhere else you want to share your artwork. And if there's anything you'd like me to paint in future videos, please let me know down in the comments below. And also, happy Halloween! And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Say bye! Bye!